Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Shred and Soul.
I'm Shred, aka Kevin Wood.
And I'm Soul, aka Wind Tears.
Well, last week we had our episode on the Halloween time and the veil being thin, and we did a ritual to call in our loved ones. And strangely enough, and not strangely actually, like clockwork, I think we did have a visitation. I was thinking about my father, and I had a music stein that, well, it's a beer stein that my mom gave me and my brothers some money for, or she bought it and had us give it to my dad for Father's Day or his birthday or something. And the thing never worked. I mean, decades later, I still have it, and it hasn't worked in decades. It probably worked when it was brand new, but I think as children we overwound it and just figured it was broken. Anyway, I got it out and I showed it to Wynn, and we were thinking about our loved ones, and then I started messing around with it, and all of a sudden this thing starts working, right? And the minute that it makes its first chime after 50, 60 years, I don't know, a long time, the clock that Wynn's mom, Louise, gave to her made a chime.
Well, it made a chime and it was turned off. It's a clock that we turn off when we're doing our episodes because it on the hour plays music. And it was turned off, so it was impossible for this to make any sounds.
Mm-hmm. And to top it off, the light
above us,
we were in the kitchen on the counter messing around with the mug, and the light burned out. So we had the chime go off on the music thing.
That never worked.
That never worked for decades, just like, oh, it's broken. And then the clock makes a sound.
Clock makes a chime and it was turned off.
And then the light burns out right above us.
So we figured, this is a way to introduce David and Louise, because they were both, David was passed when we were together, and my mom passed, so they never in physical world met. Yeah. And so, we actually had a nice affirmation that those that we called in, besides feeling them in our heart during our ritual, our Samhain ritual, we had an actual physical confirmation they were here. And so we introduced them and said, have a great time.
Yeah, and so
you're welcome.
One more thing before we continue. I thought I saw Willow, the cat that we brought home when Louise passed away. Also passed away when we were taking care of her. She lasted a few years, but she ended up passing away. And I could have sworn I saw that cat go under my legs and under the couch.
Well, he jumped up off of the couch and said, "Did you see the cat?" Like, what cat?
Yeah.
There isn't any cat. We actually got a flashlight and looked under the couch just to confirm that there wasn't a cat there. So you saw something which could have been Willow, my mom's cat, when she was visiting. I mean, my mom was visiting us in spirit. So we had some wonderful affirmations.
Yeah. And tonight is actually Halloween. You know, we tape on Fridays. But
so Samhain, the veil is thin.
So, in the next few days, and then tonight especially, check it out.
Yeah, and when you'll hear this on Tuesday, the veil is still thin. It's not just one moment it's thin. So enjoy connecting with those who've gone before, and also your intuitive and psychic abilities. And for those of you who've never met Cosmo, who I call Cosmosis, we are dog sitting for Justin, our son, and he's the most precious little dog. He's full grown and he's just 5 pounds. He's so cute. So he's going to be with us while we talk to you, hang out with you. Ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay, so today I'm going to sort of ramble on a little bit about things that come up very frequently in my work with clients and students, and either as a therapist or a coach or a spiritual guide. these questions come up all the time, almost weekly, or thoughts that people have, and they reflect the current psychobabble, the metababble and the psychobabble in our culture. And most people, therapists, they read these ideas in self-help books or magazines, and they think that, they're absolutely gold and this is how life should be or how we should be. And I have such strong feelings about a lot of it. So what I'm going to do is go through a couple of things, name them, talk about them, and then bring them together in the end. So I want to touch on selflessness, service, codependence, trauma, pain, and narcissism. And I want to, do you want to hold him while I talk? You know how hard it is for me to talk without my hands?
Yeah.
I have to talk with my hands. Sorry,
Okay.
Cosmo. So the first thing I want to talk about is selflessness and what that means. And selflessness is basically acting from a place where your heart is open and the ego and the self is not in the way. It's often putting someone else first or a situation first, not having a strong ego and a strong self. It's selflessness. And it means we're coming from a place of being whole and centered, and the core of who we are is more spiritually and more inner-centered than our ego and our needs. And we don't have a lot of attachments to outcomes. We're pretty much acting in a selfless way and being of service at times with other people. So we have no attachment. We're selfless. We have no attachment to what people do or what people say, or if we do something, getting approval or anything like that. We're in a state of being rather than a state of action. And we'll talk about this more. So that's a sort of a way of describing selflessness. And what I did was I went through and I made notes and just printed out my notes so I could go on and on about this for hours, but to keep it succinct for the talk. And the next thing is the idea of service. Service is, in a selfless way, expressing love in an act of service. It could be an action of intentional helping, volunteering, helping, compassion, someone who's in need, but it's being of service. It could be of service to the planet. It could be of service to the community. It could be of service. I could be of service to Kevin. It's a way of expressing love in action, serving someone, serving something, serving a community, serving a world. And there are many different ways we can do that. And often service comes from a place of selflessness. And I always laugh. There's an app, probably a lot of you know it, called Nextdoor, where it brings communities together and people post. And I always bring a smile to my face when somebody posts publicly their act of service today. And their act of service when they saw someone needing help or something, and that our attachment to being recognized for our act of service often comes from our need to bolster our ego. So service sometimes can be very self-serving in that we are serving because we want the accolades that come with that. But most acts of service truly come from a place of love, and even if the ego is present, the act of service comes from a clear sense of who we are, pride or being helpful, not from a sense of what comes next, codependence. And I know you hear that word, codependence, and I can't tell you how many times I want to just jump out of my skin when somebody says, well, I don't want to help them too much. I don't want to be codependent. Or they're having acts of service and they say, I don't want to be codependent though. I shouldn't help them too much. And codependence is an ego-driven service or an ego-driven action. For example, someone in our life or in a relationship is continually being disabled emotionally, maybe addiction, but there's something about this person that requires our care, our attention, and there's some unspoken, if not spoken, agreement that says, if you aren't here for me in this way, if you don't take care of me, if you don't enable me in some way, I'm going to leave. Or the person who's codependent fears that if I don't do this behavior, if I don't act this way, if I don't allow that abuse, if I don't participate in this person being disabled because they need me. It's a sense of need. I need to be needed by people. I need to be needed by someone. I need to have their dependence on me nurtured so that I'm needed and I'm fed by this. That's a core aspect of codependence, and their need somehow fills us up because we don't feel whole without those people needing us, which is different than service, which is not there to fulfill our need of being needed. It's there because our heart is open and we're compassionate, and we are just compelled through our selflessness often to want to help with no attention, no notoriety necessarily, no acknowledgement even that we may have been of service. But with codependence, often you'll find a lot of martyrs coming in. Oh, darling, look what I did. Do you know what I did? I've done so much for you. People who are very codependent often turn into martyrs. They just do so much and they need to be needed, but they don't want that need to go away. They're dependent on that need being there. So that's really important to distinguish when we're in relationship with someone and they are very needy, or we find ourselves always taking care of them in some way. Even if it's just that we do everything. We do everything. Often we have an attachment to doing everything so the person needs us. So like children need us. So it may be that we have a partner, right? Or a parent or a friend that really, really needs us. And we are completely committed and dependent upon that neediness. But in codependence, there's truly a sense that our boundaries blur. In a sense, your dysfunction becomes my dysfunction. Mm-hmm. If you're an addict and you're in addiction, I'm going to be here for you no matter what. And I am going to erode my sense of who I am because you need me. And that needing me makes me feel whole, makes me feel I have a purpose. And I can't live if I don't feel needed, because I'm not whole unto myself.
Or you might be abandoned.
Exactly. Someone's going to leave me.
And maybe if not physically, but emotionally.
Thank you. Absolutely. Emotional abandonment is really, really a very important thing. And so if you find yourself in a relationship where you feel that you're giving, or enabling someone, allowing them to have dysfunctional behaviors around you or be completely dependent upon you, you might want to check your inner state of being and say, how do I feel? There's something inside me that feels good being needed. Well, I think we all feel good when we give. But we feel good because we see the joy, or we feel the love, or we see, the outcome, and we have a good sense that outcome's occurred. Different than feeling that, oh, look what I did. I really did a good deed today for that person, or they really seem to want me now and like me now because I'm taking such good care of them. Boundaries. Often in codependence, we transgress our boundaries. So a boundary is a limit where I begin and you end. So a lot of people have boundaries that are like this. Here's who I am, and come on in and trample all over me. And I don't know how to close the boundary when it doesn't feel good anymore. And often trauma's a part of that. Or sometimes people have boundaries like this. I've been hurt before, so don't you dare come in. Don't you dare say anything wrong, because I know I'm going to end up hurt, so stay out there. And it's very hard for them to open their boundaries. Often with people who are codependent, when they're in this dynamic of helping, their boundaries tend to be wide open in that they don't know how to say no. So I become codependent. I don't want you to leave. I don't want you to abandon me. So I'm going to let you just take everything I have, and not even let you. I'm going to give it to you voluntarily, to the point where I'm beginning to erode away. And I'm resentful now, and I'm angry now. But here, take some more. Or here, I can give some more, because if I don't, you're going to leave me. Or, in some way you'll betray me. And I think that that's a really important place we can check in ourselves. How much of our service or our giving or our loving is because we have a fear that this person's going to leave. So we become codependent on the unhealthy dynamic that becomes what our relationship is. Because if I stop doing this, the dynamic shifts and that person may go.
Do you ever see that go both ways, where
Yes.
they're both codependent on each other in different ways?
Yeah. And I think sometimes in an unhealthy relationship, and we can all do this sometimes with friends, or we may even do it with each other. We have some neurotic issue, and we're codependent with each other. But usually in a healthy person, it'll be recognized at some point, and the balance in a relationship requires that change and evolve. In an unhealthy relationship, it becomes a deep dynamic that the relationship is built upon. So watch your boundaries, watch the places that start resenting what you're doing. And if you feel that you're like this and you don't know how to do this, this is what a healthy boundary looks like. Come on in, I can do that for you now. Oh, I'm really sorry I can't be here for you today, but I can be here for you tomorrow. But I have plans on Saturday, so I can't be here Saturday. Or, oh, come on in and love me. Oh, that hurt. Please step back. All right, I'll give you another opportunity. Oh, that hurt. Please step back. And then when someone hurts us a lot, we tend to go rigid and never want anyone in again. And then we have to allow the heart to open. So we have wings. Healthy boundaries are like wings. I'm open, I'm closed. You can come in, you need to go out. I can help you now, I'm not available now. So in codependence, this process doesn't exist. For the most part, we're allowing our boundary to be eroded. We have resentment, we have feelings like the martyr, and the relationship is unhealthy, and we become co-conspirators in that person. Addiction is a perfect example. We co-conspire to hold that person's addiction in place, because that addiction becomes part of our relationship. And the dynamics are built upon me being there, and me being wounded, and me being hurt, and me being whatever because of that. And there's some agreement on some level for that to stay in place. So watch your boundaries. Watch your desire to help and serve. Go ahead and help and serve. Be selfless in that moment. Allow yourself to serve. If the entire relationship is built on service, then I'd look at the questions. Is this person, say, challenged in some way, and they do need my service on a regular basis, but I have boundaries around it. I need time to regenerate. That's healthy. If this person's issue becomes something that my sense of self-worth is dependent upon, then that's not healthy. That's your ego, and that's a dysfunctional engagement. So go ahead and serve. Be selfless. Show up and help your neighbor. Show up and help your partner. Be there again and again and again and again. Just watch your egoic attachment to it.
I guess if you start to resent it, that's a good signal that you are not balanced in your helping or your attention.
We've allowed the boundaries to be eroded. We've had trouble saying no, or our ego is attached to it, and we need it in some way, but it's so extreme, that we resent it. So check your motives. Is it natural? Does it make you feel expansive when you do it, or is it, is it draining you and very unfulfilling, but you're doing it anyway? That's more codependent. Let's see. And really watch in any relationship where you feel if I'm not needed, they're going to leave, then that's more often than not a statement of your own lack of self-worth. That just being me, my loving, open person, the personality, the person I am, should be enough. And how I behave and treat someone should be enough, not that I'm needed to take care of you in a dysfunctional way. The idea of ego dissolution, which is often what is a part of selflessness, in order to truly give, there's a part of our ego that has to dissolve. And people are very much afraid of that. And I want to just say that an ego dissolution doesn't mean we stop being me. It's more our attachment to it. I'm wind. I'm all the things that I am. My intelligence, my emotional intelligence, my world, my spirit, my relationships are all part of me. But my attachment to it is what becomes the unhealthy part, the egoic part. So to dissolve ego means I'm allowing this persona to disappear for a period of time, or my attachment to it to dissolve. So it exists. She exists as a very healthy, intelligent, whole being, but my sense of being isn't fixated here. My sense of being is more of an inner spiritual place. So to let the ego dissolve means let the barriers go away for a designated period of time, or your attachment permanently can shift, so that I feel the place beneath me, which is more than that. And often service comes from that place beneath me and not from the ego. The ego is a big tool that we have. We were just talking about this a little earlier. Is the ego bad? The ego is a tool. It's like having the proper screwdriver for the right screw, or the proper wire cutter.
The ego, I think being upset with yourself for having an ego could be destructive, possibly. And I mean, when you realize that everybody has an ego, it's just, do you operate or identify with what your ego is telling you? 100% of the time. That might be where the problem could lie.
Yeah. And like we all have clothes. I like my clothes, but they're not me. They're an aspect of me. It's something I wear. And ego's sort of like that. It's part of the physical form and the mental and emotional form. But it's not necessarily who we are. So often the service, the selflessness comes from that place. Yeah. It's not about the ego wanting to have their head stroked.
Yeah, I'm thinking of monks and the way they dress all the same and shaving their heads even to dissolve away things that would identify them as being individuals, perhaps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our attachment to my hair. The crazy thing is I'll often think of, what if I got sick and I needed to take a medication that made me lose my hair? That's what I'll think of. Not, oh my God, I might die or will I survive? It's, what would I do if I had to lose my hair? Would Kevin still love me because I know he loves my hair? I go there. And that's my ego attachment. Absolute ego attachment to my hair.
A little codependency mixed in, maybe.
Yeah. He won't love me if I lose my hair. Or just maybe a fear. I don't know how you go for bald.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, so another thing I wanted to mention is sometimes I feel as if I hear one more person talk about trauma. I'm going to my trauma therapist, or I'm going to my trauma. We have trauma, and it's really important to work with our trauma. It really is. But this culture is so obsessed, self-absorbed, and I'll talk about narcissism in a minute. But this culture is so self-absorbed with us, ourselves, that we begin to live as if our trauma is our identity. I mean, you probably have seen people like that, people who've been abused, or, I'm a survivor of, or, something happened, I'm a veteran. And these are all significant traumas. And absolutely, we have to spend time working on processing and moving through the realms and the levels where our trauma exists.
Moving beyond the trauma.
Because it exists in our bodies, in our cells, in our emotional world.
It's true, because I every now and then, your mind wanders, and
eventually it'll come upon a memory of a trauma or a particular painful time that you've had. And it comes right back to you. That full feeling that you had in the distant past comes back and is as present as it was back then as it is now. And indulging in that kind of remembering to that degree, I think, is what you're talking about, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if it's indulging. I guess one way to say it is we can choose how to live in relationship to trauma. We can allow it to be something that happened. You know, family members may have died. We may have been violated and had violence against us or in war. Mm-hmm. You know, especially people with repeated trauma, that takes longer to move through. Mm-hmm. A trauma that continued over and over and over. A child has been abused over many, many years.
Deep scars.
Deep scars. They totally impact everything in our lives, how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about other people, how we live in relationships, many things.
It's a lot more than just getting past it.
Absolutely. We have to do a work to move it through us to a place where the wound has been, you know, it's healed enough, may not be completely healed, but it's not a gaping hole. And then we are able to go back to living our lives as a whole human who had this trauma occur to us. A trauma that we are working on moving through and processing. It's an aspect of who we are that affects all of us, but it's one piece of who I am. It's not the all of who I am. It's a piece or something that occurred to me once or over and over again that I am committed to moving through. That's healthy. And you bring that unhealed self, that not fully healed self to your partner or in relationship, with the sense of here's my wound, here's my trauma, it's here, this is how it might come up, and I appreciate that you're here with me while I'm completing this process. Mm-hmm. But that's not all of who I am, that's not all of what I bring.
Right, I guess that's key, huh?
Yeah.
I can't be everything that you are.
No, but in the moment of suffering the trauma in early recovery, it is. Mm-hmm. But it's a process we have to move through. Mm. This culture, I really feel, reinforces our fixation on our traumas. We are so indulged and so privileged in some ways that we indulge our trauma. And I want you to watch, it's a big market out there. Mm. People are making a lot of money, just the same way they do in a lot of rehab programs or cancer treatments. People make a lot of money on our illness. Trauma is one of them. Work with your trauma, but don't live only from your trauma once you get to the point where you're stabilized. Trauma is an aspect of our lives. And really watch for this trauma bonding, trauma this, trauma that. I can't be in relationship till I'm fully healed from my trauma. Bullshit. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, but that's not true. You will never be in relationship because traumas are things that are always with us. Even when we heal them, there's layers and layers and layers of trauma.
All you have to do is remember it.
And it triggers us again, but not to the same degree it once did.
Right.
So watch the tendency to reinforce our continual fixation with living from our trauma.
A healthy, loving relationship could aid in healing the trauma.
Absolutely.
Because I think that it would put you on a more positive wavelength, and those memories of trauma maybe would not be so significantly disabling.
Yeah. I mean, it's very common that folks will tell me, I've been in trauma therapy for 10 years. Mm-hmm. I can't be in a relationship. I can't do anything. And I'm thinking, you might want to look for a new therapist, or a new modality, because I applaud you for working on yourself for 10 years. We must work on ourselves for our entire lifetime. But if we're doing our trauma work and 10 years later, we still can't be in dialogue or in conversation or have a relationship, we are almost codependent on our trauma. We need our trauma in some way.
Yes. I've seen that too in physical ailments where people identify so heavily with that. It's the only thing they want to talk about.
Yeah. Well, but you do talk more about your physical ailments when you have a lot of them, right?
Yeah, I
we
guess
talk
so.
more about our physical
As we
ailments than we
age,
did
yeah.
16 years ago because we have more. But yeah, to your point, absolutely. It becomes our identity and our trauma too. It's not who we are. It's absolutely not who we are. It's a layer of the ego and a layer of our emotional world that imprints on us on a cellular level. From a more existential point of view, for me, trauma is a deep emotion, a scar that impacts the resonance that we resonate from and vibrate from and transmit from in our lives. So when we are embedded deeply in our trauma, it's like a low level of energy. And that's the level of consciousness that we then tap into. We are stuck in this low level vibration. In order for us to emerge and evolve and awaken more spiritually, we want to, and to perceive other more expanded levels of reality, we have to resonate on a more expanded vibration, which happens in quantum reality to have a higher tone. A higher note resonates more to those frequencies. So it's really important to not remain stuck in the trauma. It keeps us unconscious. It keeps us embedded in these dense human aspects of who we are. Experience it, note it, address it, work on it. It could take years. But don't get stuck there and don't make it all of who you are, even while you're working on it. Allow yourself to also expand and resonate more fully to the full spectrum of who you are as a human.
Yeah, and also recognizing, as you learn more about this stuff, you can start to see it within yourself, the mechanism behind the attachments, and recognizing that and saying, oh, wow, look what I just did. My ego at work, it's doing it again, but now I can see it. But, don't get down on yourself for having an ego and having attachments. Applaud yourself for recognizing them.
Yeah, recognize and work on it and then live more fully. Another thing that trauma does, conflict trauma, and the psychobabble of our current psychological world is so fixated on the conflict and the trauma. And I think that we're experiencing it. Our world is mirroring it. We mirror it to each other. The conflict out there, the trauma out there we have in here, is the way we utilize conflict and trauma, our pain, as a reason to avoid intimacy and connection. And I'll see in many, many individuals, I can't be close to someone because of my pain. I can't be close to someone because of my trauma. Or in a relationship, the old wounds. Like, we know what it's like when we plug each other into an old dynamic. It comes up again, and what does it do? It pushes us away. It becomes a reason to stay distant. And sometimes when couples are afraid of being intimate or close, we will keep our conflict alive and keep our trauma alive. And the reason I can't be intimate with you or sexual or emotionally connected with you is because I don't feel safe because I have this trauma and my pain. At some point, that's true. At some point, that's absolutely true. We are so hurt and so wounded, we need to not allow another person in until we've healed some of this ourselves, so we can bring more of a whole aspect of who we are for the relationship. And it's not all going to be healed before we die necessarily. So we can be in relationship and still navigate the pain.
We all have karmic baggage that comes with us and hopefully doesn't go with us.
Leave it all behind?
Yeah, hopefully.
One of the hard thing, though, is in relationship when the person we are in relationship with may be one of the causes of our pain. The person was maybe abusive, could be a parent-child, could be
a codependent relationship.
We have a lot of trauma about it.
Had an upbringing that was full of dysfunction.
Yeah, and so how do we open up to the person that is the trigger of the pain or the cause of the pain? That's a little different. But even then, in relationship, we cause each other pain. And we all know what that's like when we allow our history or our attachment to the pain or our attachment to being right, our attachment to being whatever, be the reason why I'm not going to be close to you because you pained me 8 years ago and I still remember that and you're still doing it.
Yeah.
That pain can lead us to working on that issue. But often, even after the pain's resolved, we have to face that sometimes we recreate the pain because we are terrified of intimacy in relationship, with friends, or with ourselves. Without the pain, who am I? Without the pain, there's nothing in between us. Oh my God, I may have to allow you in. I may have to negotiate all my fears and mistrust that are mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. So watch how we allow our pains to become the barrier to intimacy, and how we may recreate the pain and traumas in our lives so that we don't have to be close. You know, often when you're working with couples, whether they're spiritual students or they're coaching clients, you'll see that the conflict goes away, and as soon as they're together again, like that. Because when you get here, it's frightening. Oh my goodness, maybe our ego will dissolve away. Maybe I'll lose myself in you. Maybe I'll have to deal with the ways I'm crazy. And as long as you're here close to me, I'm going to have to face that. So let's repel again.
Interesting.
So a lot of people are addicted in a sense to the trauma. And again, total reverence for trauma and doing the trauma work. If we have trauma, we must do our work around it.
Yeah.
But caution to not let it be the locus of your being and the locus of your life.
Right.
All right, one more thing, because I could fill hours, and I already have, like, how many more pages left?
Entire episode.
Yeah. One more thing is, you've all heard narcissism now. It's sort of the buzzword, right? One decade it was bipolar, another decade it was something else. We sort of pick an ailment, or we pick a psychological dynamic to focus on every decade. Sometimes I think it's because we've exhausted the ability to profit on the previous one. We need new medications or a new focus. Yeah. And also, we, as a culture, we have a collective personality disorder that evolves. And narcissism in our culture, to me, is how I would describe our culture. That drives me crazy too.
Yeah.
Everyone's a narcissist now, right? Oh, my boyfriend, or my mother, or my this or that, they're a narcissist. And there's subtypes now in narcissism. And it's real. Don't get me wrong. It's real. But we start seeing it everywhere. And all of us have narcissistic tendencies, especially people who are performers. So you and I, who do work with people and stuff, would be considered people with a high level of narcissism. Yeah. Singers, actors, and
guitar players,
podcasters. But that means, in a sense, you have a performative nature. And but our culture is very narcissistic. And one of the things that also just hurts my heart is when I hear people say, I know I shouldn't be saying this, but I should be able to be alone because I know I'm supposed to be able to be alone with myself and be completely happy, but I'm not. I'm lonely. I'm depressed. And I just want to scream. Take that notion that you should be able to live for the next 20 years by yourself, not in relationship or not with other people around you, and throw it out the window. We are pack animals. We are herding animals. Human beings have to be... We're
social.
Yeah, we're social beings. We have to be in relationship with other humans. And to think that we could just alienate, isolate by ourselves at home, trying to learn to be happy with ourselves 24/7, every day, all the time, is sick. Yes, we need to learn how to be alone. I enjoy my time alone. I don't get enough time alone, right? I like being with myself, and we have to learn how to be with ourselves so we don't fear being alone. We don't want to be afraid of ourselves and being alone. And often we don't want to be alone because we're going to feel the feelings we don't want to feel. Or we are completely needing somebody else's affirmation so we feel like we're somebody. To be alone, we're not getting that feedback loop of someone telling us we're X, Y, or Z. So to be alone means being okay unto ourselves and enjoying our relationship with ourselves. But to take that and extrapolate that in a lot of self-help movements, or a way of feeling about your life, that I should be okay being alone all the time. For the last 10 years, I've lived alone, and I haven't found the right person, but I keep telling myself it's okay that I should be able to be alone, and why am I depressed and feeling all these feels? It's not okay. We have to relate with other people. We die if we don't. Our brain chemistry is impacted if we don't.
That's not to say you necessarily have to have a marital partner or a live-in partner, but being able to connect with other people on a deeper level than a superficial hello or goodbye or writing down a nice tip on your waiter's tab.
Mm-hmm. And it could be, going to a book club or having a good neighbor you spend time with, or friends or family that you spend time with and have some touch. Touch. Mm-hmm. I love that my family's very touchy.
Even in conversational things, I think that, I've heard that having a conversation with a complete stranger is one of the most difficult cognitive things a human being can do. And that'll take you right out of your comfort zone if you're not used to doing that. And most people aren't. And that's why you go to the store, you start commenting to people about their choices of food items, or you just, like the Geico commercial, you're turning into your parents being a ridiculous old person talking to strangers. That is something that needs to be cultivated early on, I think, so you don't feel so isolated.
I think that's really important. Thank you for saying that we have many ways of reaching out and feeling connected. Mm-hmm. And talking to a stranger.
Yeah.
It's one of those, when we connect with another person in love and emotionally, our oxytocin levels raise. And we need that. So we need that oxytocin. Makes us feel really good. So go talk to someone in the store, and you don't have to sit home alone. And if you want a relationship, go have a relationship. Go create one in your life. It's not okay to spend your whole life alone if that's not what you want. If you want to be alone because you're getting your needs met in other places, and that really serves you and you feel whole, awesome. But if you're sitting at home feeling, I want a relationship and there's something wrong with me because I want that relationship, I should be happy alone, please don't buy into that.
No. It can be crippling. I used to be considered extremely shy when I was young, and even up into high school, I had a small group of friends that I was familiar with, but it was difficult to ingratiate myself into social settings. And I later got a job driving a taxi cab, and I was doing this in my old hometown on Bainbridge Island, and I would pick up people every now and then that were from the school that I graduated from, the high school. And I would start talking to them, and oftentimes I'd hear, wow, I didn't know you could even talk. They were surprised that I actually could speaking, because I put myself in a setting where I had to talk to people. It was difficult at first, but I just started catching on and became social. And then I felt like, wow, that was a growing thing for me.
Well, I think that's a good thing to bring up is sometimes we're shy, and often shyness. I mean, some people are more introverted than others, but sometimes shyness is the result of low self-esteem.
Yes.
We're not reinforced as a child to speak, to have an opinion, and our shyness is really a pulling in and not feeling safe connecting.
Yes.
Was that like that for you?
Oh, yeah. Well, shyness comes from somewhere. I can't pinpoint exactly where my shyness came from. I think everybody's a little bit shy. I think, especially in our disconnected world, talking to another human being face to face can be challenging for just about everybody. Especially
in the world of social media, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and with the rampant narcissism and disconnection, and we're so entertained by our phones, and nobody wants to jump off that carousel ride and actually deal with real reality, real conversations. I mean, it's not all that bad. I mean, I've had great conversations with other people, but generally.
Yeah. So just to recap some buzzwords to think about. And again, don't don't take on my thoughts and opinions. And my opinions are formed from the kind of work that I do, the kind of teaching I do, the kind of work that I do in my experiences. You may have a different experience, and that's really awesome. And so just maybe take these buzzwords and integrate them into yourself and see how you feel about them. So how do you feel about selflessness and ego dissolution? What does that bring up for you? How do you feel about acts of service? And one way to really see where you are with your egoic involvement in an act of service is to try doing something out in the world this week. Pay for the cup of coffee and the person in line behind you or something, and tell no one. Tell no one that you did that. Pick an act of service and just do it for the experience of having a selfless moment of service, compassion, and love.
I might try that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing because then we're up against how much we want to tell someone
I know.
that we did that and how good it felt, right?
Yeah.
You know what I did?
You can pat yourself on the back without having other people pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, you can just say, well, I'm really happy I did that.
I'm not an expert on it because I hardly ever do that kind of thing.
Well, it would be good to cultivate that, I think, for all of us.
Challenge.
Right? And Thanksgiving's coming up. It's a time to give. And sometimes all we have to give maybe is a smile. Or can I help you carry those bags to your car for an older person?
Yeah.
Or some little thing.
So free turkey.
Give away a turkey.
Give away the turkey.
Yeah. So watch that. Here's a challenge for you. See how it feels for you to do a simple act of service and kindness this week to anyone, and don't tell anyone about it, and see how that feels. And then I want you to also think of codependence. You can reflect on that, or the relationships in your life where you feel that if you're not giving and you feel resentment, that person is going to somehow abandon you emotionally or physically. And really assess your relationships, like, why am I doing this? Or if I draw this boundary, they're going to transgress it, so I won't draw the boundary. So I become codependent on reinforcing this negative loop and behavior. Just watch that. Kind of check yourself out on that. And when it comes to being connected to people, look how important that is and how good you feel when you're connected to someone. I even enjoy it when I'm on the line somewhere and I have an impromptu conversation with someone. I love doing that, meeting someone new and getting a little sense of who they are, and then they go on their way. I get a good rush out of that. So watch your need, your desire for connection and how important that is. And if you find yourself saying, I should really be okay with being alone, I would say maybe rewire that to, I want to be able to enjoy being alone with myself. I do not need another person's affirmation or attention to feel whole into myself. And I have really more of a sense of wholeness when I achieve that ability and master that ability. Then I do want a relationship in my life, or I do want to spend time with other people because it makes me happy. They're separate things. Please watch anything inside yourself that makes yourself wrong for wanting connection.
Yeah.
And the other one is trauma.
Trauma.
Watch how much of yourself identifies with your pain and your trauma. And see if maybe there's any of it that it's time to sort of let go of. It'll be there. It's not going anywhere. Every time you touch that spot, you'll feel the scar. You're not going to erase it. It's a part of you. But how much you live from it. And then also in relationship, are there any relationships that are in constant conflict? They're really high level, high conflict relationships. Could be at work, could be with your partner, could be with a family member. The person that's always in conflict, always negative, always in conflict. And if we participate in that without addressing it or without removing ourselves, then we are utilizing that pain and that conflict with this person, that trauma, to maintain an emotional distance and intimacy. Because being emotionally connected and intimate with that person is just too frightening. So we will participate in maintaining the conflict as a means of keeping distance and safety. So those are my sort of rants of this week and of this time of life as I move in this world and culture and work with people and just go outside and see the self-help books or just listen to people and
Yeah.
my thoughts. Anything you want to add on that?
Well, let's try to cultivate our interpersonal relationships and realize that these things feed us. It's like breathing. It's like getting enough exercise, eating good, wholesome foods that are nourishing, talking to other people, having relationships with other people is important. And so I'd like to take that one and ponder it for a while and act upon it.
Yeah, and maybe it's a good reminder for us to do the same things we're talking about. Kind of do an inventory of our lives, our
Yeah.
relationships, each other.
We all have, like I said, karmic baggage, and a lot of our karmic baggage it impacts this kind of thing and creates dysfunctional relationships and codependencies and loneliness and narcissism. So, the goal is to get past all that and move forward and don't move back.
Okay. Well, I hope you got something out of my little dissertation.
That was great. We should do more of these.
I'm sure we will. Every now and then something comes up and I just feel like I have to say something about it again. So yeah, thanks for indulging me on that one. And I enjoyed having to just put my thoughts down on paper a little bit and just organize. I have pages more, but I'm next time. All right.
Okay. So for that, till next time.
Subscribe, comment. Catch you later.
Stay in touch, and thanks again.
Bye.